Welcome to Comics with Dan. Uh, Welcome to Monday Night Comics. I have a little bit of a different setup tonight. I was not able to use the computer I usually use, so um, I had to use my phone, and I've got my iPad here. So I'm not gonna be able to share the screen, but I can at least, talk about comics for a bit. Um, you know, Keep things moving that way. So I'm going to pull up my iPad here so that I can make sure that I am. Ooh, one second. That might be better. Nope, that's not better. Oh. Okay. I still have. You know what? I don't need this other one to be in here. Okay. So let's talk about uh, what came out this week. So I'm going to pull up my League of Comic Geeks, uh, my League of Comic Geeks account, and we'll see. I know I didn't have any pools last week because it was a bit of a weird week with it being New Year's Day on um, New Comic Book Day. So I didn't get the opportunity to pull anything last week. But I do have some things coming up next week. I have Transformers. I'll see what number it is. One of the Transformers books, as well as I have Absolute Batman number 4 and Batman and Robin, maybe number 18. Like I said, I'll look into. So let me just get signed. And I apologize for being late. I had to get my kids down to sleep. Um, and it can sometimes be a bit of a process doing that. But so yeah, so Transformers number 16, Absolute Batman number 4, and Batman and Robin number 17 coming out this upcoming week. And so let's see if there was anything in the last week that came out. That's not what I'm looking for. New comics. There we go. New comics from last week. So Batman came out. Um, I hear that this has been at least something of an upgrade from earlier in Chip's run. So, um, I've heard fairly good things about that. Also, Saga returned on the first. I was never able to get into Saga. It's just not something that I really, was all that enamored with. I read like the first 15 issues too. Um, I do know that if you want to check it out, that Hoopla has the Hoopla app has the that compendium, the first compendium that's like first like 54 issues or something crazy. And so that's what I did is I read the first 15 issues of that, and I think that 15 issues is enough to get a long enough chance to give something in order to determine if you're going to like it. But just wasn't for me, and that's fine. Now, the Ultimates number 8 came out this past week as well. Um, I really need to get into that. I'm gonna look and see. I don't know what the story is with the trade for this. If it's out already or if it's coming out. But I've heard nothing but great things about the Ultimates. Um, it looks like Denise Camp is just taking these characters and just having a blast. So I'm going to go to the series on League of Comic Geeks and see if I can find the trade. See, I don't see anything. So we have 1 through 10. I'm trying to find. See, I have a hard time looking through the like the website version of League of Comic Geeks for some reason. I'm always so used to having it on my phone. If I go through here, I'll also be able to see where it's collected in, hopefully. Or I'll just scroll through all of these reviews, all these 5-star reviews of issue number 1. Um, I mean, anyone watching, if have you read Ultimates? I mean, from what I understand, it's um, a really good contribution to the Ultimate Universe for Marvel. Um, in actuality, I really need to get into Marvel a bit more. I do not read a lot of Marvel books, um, and it's not because I don't think that they're good. I think it's just that my pull list is fairly limited, right? And so I'll read a lot of Marvel and trade. And in fact, I have something I'm going to show you later where Captain America, uh, Jack Kirby omnibus. But I it's yeah, it's just with my pull list being the way that it is, it's just not usually possible for me to pull everything that I want, and so I just end up not getting a lot of Marvel books. I'm trying to think. The last Marvel book that I pulled was Avengers Assemble, and I stopped pulling that because I had heard that Night Thrasher got sort of sidelined, um, and so I didn't want to read that one anymore. And then the last full series that I pulled from Marvel was probably the Night Thrasher series earlier this year, which is pretty good. Um, oh, I also pulled a Star Wars series, but it was the Inquisitor series, and I did not enjoy that in the least. Okay, so I found the information on the Ultimates, and okay, so it looks like the first trade is going to come out in February. So I'm really going to need to get a copy of that because again, I've heard nothing but good things. I heard the new Hawkeye is really cool. Being Native Americans a really cool um, addition to the character. I think, given the bow and arrow being Hawkeye's main weapon choice, I think that's a cool addition to that. Um, so yeah, so what did I read this past week? Let's look into it here. I'm gonna pull up what I've read. Mm, So the one thing that I've been reading is I've been reading IDW Sonic, which, as I mentioned, I think on last week's episode, um, my wife and I got my son Volume 2 of the IDW Sonic collection, the one with tails in the front, because we had gotten him Volume 1 for his birthday last year, and so and then my wife got me Volume 3. So I have that here, and so like I mentioned, like these books are just so well made. I mean, like it's just a really nice hardcover. It has the tassel for marking your spot, um, and like honestly, these like Ian Flynn is just so good, right? I mean, he does such an awesome job with these. I can't really, I don't know if I've ever read a Sonic book written by someone other than Ian Flynn, but that's fine by me because he's fantastic. I mean, he's just so good at what he does. And like, I mean, the books are like good for kids, but it doesn't, he in no way dumbs it down like for kids to understand. right? So, and I'm a big proponent of making sure that we don't dumb things down for kids, right? I mean, kids are never going to understand complex themes, or they'll be very late to understanding complex themes in stories if we just dumb things down for them until we think they're ready, you know. I mean, I think that's just a good way to go about it. So I yeah, so I thought, I'm really enjoying that. So we're on issue number 23, and I think this. Yeah, so volume 3 goes from 21 to 32. So once we get through that, volume 4 is out, and then volume 5 comes out in March. So we will definitely be getting that. There's no doubt. So I think that, oh, there's one other thing I wanted to pull up over here. So something else. So my wife has uh, she calls it a bookstagram. It's a Instagram where she talks about books, right? And so it's called Raising Tiny Bookworms, and it's mostly focused on, well, I guess I shouldn't say that. So she'll review lots of books that she reads for herself, but she also puts a lot of stuff on there that she reads to our kids. And so it's seriously, it's crazy. She'll get what we call book mail. It seems like several times a week. She just gets so many books, and it's awesome and exciting. One that she got that I thought was really cool was this book called Martin and the Yeti. Okay, and so I mean, you can see from my hand, right? Is that it's a small book, it's tiny. All right. And while I don't know that I would say that it's necessarily a comic, it's illustrated, and it's sequential storytelling, which I think to me is what makes something a comic. So it's cool. It's like it came in like an envelope and was just like you know flattened out like that, and then when she got it, she folded it in half like this, and so yeah, so it's by Jacob and Rebecca Lasson, and hopefully I'm spelling that or I'm pronouncing that right. But there's no dialogue in this, and they look like watercolors, and I'm pretty sure that that's what they are. Um, and so like the illustrations in this are just really great. Um, so we have that was my wife over there. Lots of great pictures here, and it's just like this boy. I'm assuming that's Martin, and he's going sledding and meets this Yeti, and it's just nice, fun. Um, it's really cool. I will make sure that, and I have to admit, I'm slightly unprepared for this, um, but I will make sure that I post a link to where you can get this. Uh, I'll post it on my Blue Sky account after I finish recording this. But um, it's really cool. It's just, I mean, like, I really like this art. I really like the format of it. Um, I just it really gave me like Calvin and Hobbes vibes, which is an extremely high compliment because Calvin and Hobbes is just great. And so um, I'll read a little blurb about them in the back here. So it says about the artist. Jacob Lasson was born in Iowa in the U.S., grew up in Slovakia, and returned to Iowa to study orchestra teaching. Rebecca grew up in Switzerland, Canada, and the U.S., from Connecticut for high school to Massachusetts for college and Iowa for grad school. Um, they worked as orchestra director in Iowa City, Then as museum educator at the National Czech-Slovak Museum and Library in Cedar Rapids, Jacob found his calling in illustrating children's books and creating fine paintings to encourage conservation stewardship, and is launching his full-time artist career out of Fairbanks, Alaska. And so this is the piece in the back there. But I just thought this was really cool, and I asked my wife if I could show you all this because I thought that this was great. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a nice book. I like having it right now. It sits on our coffee cart, and honestly, like occasionally, since we've gotten it, I'll just pick it up and kind of flip through it um, when I walk past the coffee cart. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So that's another thing that I looked at this week. So I don't think I read all that much. Um, the one thing that I did read or have been reading, and so it's kind of part of the reason why I haven't read as much, is because I'm working my way through this Captain America omnibus. So I discovered the interlibrary loan uh, program through our library, and was just like, well, I'll give it a try. Like I'm gonna try to read some Jack Kirby Captain America, and um, and so this is what does this collect? This collects numbers 193 to 214, as well as annuals number 3 and 4, and the Marvel Treasury special featuring Captain America's bicentennial battles. So, so I it was a bit of a tough read at first. I don't know. It started off with the basically like the bicentennial uh, stories, or the lead up to it rather, and that was a bit of a drawn out story. Um, and so it's this one here, and I, to be honest, wasn't sure how much I was going to enjoy the book when I was going through this one, just because it's got all this crazy stuff, and so like Jack Kirby is, I mean, he's like known for just these outlandish ideas in his comics, right? I mean, he wrote New Gods, so um, his Captain America is no exception to that. But I wasn't loving it. But then following that up, we got like really classic Captain America, and it was awesome. It's been awesome, and so I'm actually pretty close. Yeah, I'm pretty close to being done. I mean, I've got about that much left. So I've been really enjoying that after I got through the bicentennial stuff. Um, it has the first appearance of Arnim Zola in it, which is cool because Arnim Zola, which I think they just call him Zola in the show, but Arnim Zola makes an appearance in or w- is a new character in Spidey and His Amazing Friends, which the kids really like watching. And I think it's a well done show. I mean, I think it's genius that they're bringing, you know, these superheroes to like preschool age kids, because getting them hooked on them early, I mean, that's how they're going to grow up to be comic fans. So I think that's smart. Uh, I also, and I know I mentioned this last time as well, but I did not have it with me during the stream. But I have this Murder on the Orient Express graphic novel that my wife gave me for Christmas, and like I said, like it has. I really like the art in it. It reminds me of the '60s movie, which I have not read the original Murder on the Orient Express novel. I've seen the '60s movie, and I've seen the newer one, the Kenneth Branagh one. And so this definitely seems to be more like the '60s one than the Kenneth Branagh one. But yeah, I mean, it's just I really like so it's adapted and illustrated by Bob Al Green. And so yeah, I mean it's got some great art in it. I'm really enjoying it. So, and who's this published by? Oh, so it's just HarperCollins, which is cool. I mean, that's a big publisher. So, um, yeah, I really like that one so far. I'm not super far into that one because, like I said, I've been reading this Captain America book for some time. Um, but but yeah, so that's what I've been reading. As for what I have coming up, as I mentioned at the beginning, I have Absolute Batman number 4. I have Transformers number 16, and I have uh, Batman and Robin. Pretty sure it's number 18. I keep forgetting, but we're gonna look and see. Um, yeah, 17. Batman and Robin number 17. And so the solicit for Absolute Batman is Absolute Batman has established himself as an extremely large force to be reckoned with. But how did he get to this point? How did he push himself? And how did the tragic events of his childhood and the advice of his father shape the man who he became, literally? Um, so that's probably going to talk about how he got so giant. So it says guest artist Gabriel Hernandez Walta joins for this essential origin issue of Absolute Batman to explore Bruce Wayne's past and his inevitable future to go bigger. Don't miss this pivotal issue. So apparently it was the plan the whole time for the for issue number 4 to be not illustrated by Nick Dracotta, and that it was going to be a guest artist because it's like a flashback issue. Um, Honestly, to me, it does sort of feel like this book has lost its steam quite a bit from issue number 1. Um, and so I'm actually going to add. I'm gonna, there we go. I'm gonna add a banner so that people that join the stream are able to see which book we're talking about. Okay, so we're talking about Absolute Batman. All right. And so, as I was saying, I think that this book has, to a certain extent, lost some steam. Um, it is, it. I still like it. Um, I just don't know that it has been quite as good as issue number 1. I mean, we're now 3 issues in. Um, it's been okay, but I am kind of just like waiting for something more to happen. Uh, Especially considering that the second issue in, we got a cover with Alfred fighting Batman, and in the solicit it says it's Batman versus Alfred Pennyworth. And then inside the comic, no Batman versus Alfred Pennyworth. Um, Still a solid issue, not great. Like just for example, like I gave issue number 1 4.5 stars, and then I gave issues 2 and 3 3.5 stars. I mean, it like by no means is it bad. It's not wowing me. I mean, it's this is supposed to be keeping pace with Absolute Spider-Man. I mean, that's what this is supposed to be. And it's like I don't love Absolute Spider-Man either, but I can recognize that it's well done. Um, and right now, like just objectively, it seems like Absolute Spider-Man's or not Absolute Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man is the stronger book. Um, and it is what it is. I'm going to probably continue to pull Absolute Batman, just because I want to make sure that I'm on the same page with what's going on there. Um, Now, what we're going to talk about next is Transformers number 16. So, um, over in the fall, we got sort of like a 2 issue break. So, like, issue number 12 was the final issue of the second arc of Transformers. And so we see sort of that initial battle between the Autobots and the Decepticons, sort of, I don't want to say brought to a close, but it reaches a sort of, I don't even want to say a plateau either, but it reaches a point where, I mean, the sides have sort of scattered and they're not, in immediate quarrel with each other, right? So then following that, we have a 2 issue arc talking about Starscream, and what he's doing with this, and or what he sort of his origin story really, which I liked, and it was pretty good. Especially the first issue of that was just awesome. I ended up giving that one 5 stars. Um, and then once we finish with that, now we have issue number 15 came out, and it's like the start of a new arc, right? I'm not sure what this means. So I think what's going to happen is, I think issues uh, 13 and 14 are going to be collected in uh, volume 3 of Transformers. And so it'll have that little short story, presumably in the beginning. And then because it does actually give some information on where Starscream is now, like what he's doing in present day, which is helpful. And part of the reason I liked that first issue in the arc and that 2 story arc so much. But issue number 15 is I guess the kickoff of the next bigger arc, and it ended with this big reveal. It ended with this big reveal on who they're fighting. It's like some sort of combined something. The problem with it is that if you're not like super well versed in like Transformers, then you're not going to know what it is. So I feel like the impact of that final page in issue number 15 kind of, I kind of missed it. It was cool. The art was good. I mean, I believe Jorge Corona was on that. Yeah, so Jorge Corona did it, and it was good. So like it was a solid issue, right? I gave it 4 stars out of 5. Um, but yeah, so now we have issue number 16, and I have nothing to go on based on the solicit. It says Autobots versus Decepticons versus spoiler. That's it. On the cover, we have 2 Transformers that I am not familiar with. And so on one hand, it's slightly frustrating. I also just saw a spoiler variant, and don't look that up because it will spoil it. I'm very excited now. I'm very excited now because I just saw something that I think will spoil it a little bit. I'm not going to say here, but I'm very excited now. So my tune is completely changed after seeing. If you want to be spoiled, there's on League of Comic Geeks there is a spoiler variant cover listed, and it has somebody on the front of it, somebody that I am very familiar with. So um, it's exciting. So Transformers number 16. Um, I don't know. I'm still not seeing. So 2 weeks ago we had Void Rivals. I think number 15 maybe. We had Void Rivals, and like obviously there's been lots of Transformers characters in Void Rivals, but I haven't seen a whole lot of um, I haven't seen a whole lot of potential for crossover directly, right? There's a lot of the characters, and you can see how these universes are linked, but the the story, the plot points that are happening with the Transformers in the Transformers book don't seem to be in any way, shape, or form related to what's happening in the Void Rivals book, which is probably pretty good at this point. I think we're far enough into it that they could start planting those seeds, but I think that it's appreciated that you don't have to pick up all these books. Even though I'm strongly considering picking up GI Joe books as well, um, just to keep it going. I still need to read Cobra Commander and Duke. I haven't read. I haven't read. To be honest, I have not read any of the GI Joe side of things. So there's Cobra Commander. There's Duke. There's what's her name? Scarlet and Despero. That doesn't sound right. No, that's it. I think it's Despero. But not the mouse. But um, and then the new GI Joe book, I think, either just came out or is coming out soon. Let's look into that. Um, I was hoping that my library would get these GI Joe books, and they have not. But that may be my next request for the interlibrary loan. Um, but we'll see. So see GI Joe, GI Joe. Oh wow! Apparently we've had 2 issues already. Um, GI Joe number 1 came out in November. And number 2 came out in December. The Comic Vet, what's up, man? Welcome, welcome. We're talking Energon Universe, and I'm trying to figure out how much I'm really missing with not reading the GI Joe side of things. So I've been up on Void Rivals and Transformers since day one. So um, I mean, we'll see. I'm gonna actually, yeah, I'll put that up there. Comic Vet. So yeah, I mean, Void Rivals and Transformers has been great. I can only imagine that the GI Joe side of things are good. Um, I like Josh Williamson. I think I think he's a solid writer. I think that some of his work can suffer from being like a little too much fluff, but um, but I've heard such good things about Cobra Commander, so I really need to check that out. And Despero is written by Dan Waters, who is fantastic. So the comic vet's reading Void Rivals and Transformers, scattered Joe titles, and you're doing just fine. Yeah, I think. I mean, I think based on what I've read um, with Void Rivals and Transformers, I feel that I don't need to be. I don't need to know what's going on in either one to enjoy the other. I just happen to like both of them. So um, yeah, so I'm gonna just like try to get some trades and see how that goes. But what we have next is gonna be, and I should have had these prepared earlier, but I have a different setup today, so I'm going to allow myself to be messed up here. Okay, so number 17. All right, Batman and Robin number 17. So again, and I've said this a few times before about Batman and Robin, is that Philip Kennedy Johnson, I actually got to meet him at Baltimore Comic Con, and I asked him about his Batman upcoming at that point it was upcoming, his upcoming Batman and Robin run, and he told me that he was going to write this as if he was never going to get the chance to write a Batman title again. And I thought that sounded awesome because he's just going to leave it all out there. Um, I like it a lot so far. It's a mystery story. A lot of people complained about the uh, the characterization of Damian Wayne, and I don't know that that's that big of a deal because first of all, I think anyone that I saw complaining about it in the first issue uh, was perfectly fine with how it went in the second. Um, he was just in the first issue, which I believe, if I look back, I believe it's issue number 14 or 15 rather. No, it was 14. Okay, so in issue number 14, Damian Wayne acts super bratty, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's going backwards. Like, how could they do this?" Damian Wayne is supposed to be a 13-year-old kid, and he's already bratty, so that's normal for him to act that way. And to be honest, I didn't think that he even acted that bratty. I think he just was acting like a teenager acts. But either way, he does get much better in the following issues, and it develops into this mystery story that dives into sort of Batman's past, and it does remind me a little bit of not it doesn't remind me of Batman the Knight in terms of it being a story where we follow Bruce before he becomes Batman, but rather it, it feels like it's referencing a time. Basically, it's referencing a time where Bruce was learning about what he needs to know to become Batman. And so I think that that Philip Kennedy Johnson is doing a good job of like setting up some background to give reason to what's happening in the present, which is helpful because I think that, um, and it's not just borrowing from other stuff, right? So like, I think that when you compare this to the regular Batman title, it's an issue, or the main issue with that is that Chip Zdarsky's just borrowing from, you know, mostly Grant Morrison, to be honest. But um, it's just it feels like there's not a whole lot of original ideas in there, at least, and it makes me appreciate the failsafe arc because it just felt a little more, you know, original, right? But this Batman and Robin, Philip Kennedy Johnson's Batman and Robin, it feels a lot more original. I mean, I'm fairly certain that Memento is not an existing villain. So it's nice to have a new villain here. And it also doesn't, Memento doesn't strike me as a villain that we're going to need to be following after this arc is over. Um, my guess is that he is going to be gone after this, which is fine with me because I don't need another villain that I'm wondering why they don't get used anymore. Or, there's just so many Batman villains. It's like, how are we supposed to fit them all into these Batman books? Like it's it ends up becoming, a bit of a cluster to deal with all these different Batman villains. But so I think Memento is gonna, stick around for this arc, and then my guess is that Memento will be gone afterwards. So I'm excited to read Batman and Robin number 17. I rated number 16 fairly high. Um, I gave it 4.5 stars out of 5 on League of Comic Geeks. I did really enjoy it. And then this one's looking like it's going to be pretty good as well. Um, and Scarecrow made his way into the story, which is cool. And so I'm definitely excited about that. Um, I mean, truthfully, I did have to cut my pull list quite a bit recently, and just because I it was kind of growing too much. Um, Chances are I'm going to be. I ended up, and this is funny if you've watched my channel before. I did take. I'm pretty sure I took Aquaman off of my pull list. Uh, but there's a strong possibility that when I go to pick up my comics on Wednesday, that I'm just going to grab Aquaman off the shelf. But it's funny because I I made a video, a rather ridiculous one, about where's Aquaman, because he hasn't had his own book in a while, and then he gets one, and it's not on my pull list. Um, there's a 99% chance that I grab it off the shelf if it's there when I go pick up my books. Um, so there's that. Metamorpho, uh, recently, his book came out recently. I'll probably have to check that one out and trade. Been excited to see that one. Um, Again, Black Lightning was another one that I actually just picked that up off of. I picked that up off of the shelf when that came out, and it was really good. Like I really liked it, and I think I put it on my pull list very briefly, but then very shortly after that had to cut a bunch of stuff. So I that one did not make the cut. And so I think DC is just putting out so many good books right now, and it feels like, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the stream, that you know I don't pull a lot of Marvel. It feels like Marvel's just not 100% sure where they're going, especially when you have a flagship book like um, the Amazing Spider-Man, and like I truly have not minded Zeb Wells' run on Spider-Man. I am through. Oh, let me see. I don't know which ones I've read so far. Um, I'm through volume 10, which in the Amazing Spider-Man, which takes me through issue number 49, and so volume 11, which looks like fun, but I haven't hated it. I haven't loved it either. I mean, I actually kind of liked Gang War. It was pretty solid, but yeah, I mean, Gang War was pretty good. I thought. The potential was definitely there, and then the following volume was kind of hit or miss. But it feels a little directionless at this point. I mean, it seems a little weird to me that they'd have Joe Kelly do this Eight Deaths of Spider-Man and then follow it up with a new number one. I like Joe Kelly a lot. I he wrote Space Ghost in 2005 for DC, and it's one of my favorite books ever. So I really like Joe Kelly. I have not read any of his Spider-Man yet, because I have just enjoyed waiting for my library to get the trades. They get every trade almost immediately after it comes out. So then I just borrow it from the library. But when you have such a big book like The Amazing Spider-Man feel so directionless, how does the rest of the line not feel directionless? And I guess to combat that, Batman for DC hasn't been its strongest book. I mean, maybe strongest in terms of sales, but is it strongest in terms of quality? Probably not. So I think that Fantastic Four has obviously been very strong for Marvel. And the One World Under Doom event coming out, I mean, that's the most enticed I've been into reading an event from Marvel in a while. So I might see about that event just because I need something to kind of pull my interest back into Marvel. It's just been feel like it's been missing a little bit lately. So, um, but yeah, so I am probably going to be cutting a little short this evening. I do have a fairly busy work schedule, so I have some things to go work through with that. But I think I managed to cover quite a bit, even though I had my different setup today. Hopefully you enjoyed the hopefully you enjoyed the stream just as much, even though I wasn't able to provide the visuals up on the side. You just had to stare at my ugly mug for the whole stream. But I recently put out a video reviewing different holiday horror anthologies. So make sure you check that out. It has offerings from Image Comics called Dread the Halls. Boom Studios put out Hello Darkness #6, which had a holiday story in it, a Christmas story called The Christmas Log. And there was also from Oni Press, Shiver Suspense Stories, which was part of their EC Comics revival. And truthfully, like, not to spoil the video, but they're all super well done. I mean, you're not gonna go to see that video and see me, bad mouthing anything on any of those because I thought they were all really great. Um, so yeah, I appreciate everyone watching, and make sure you like this video. It really helps kind of get it kicked into the algorithm for the replay, and get some views following up. And make sure you subscribe to the channel because that's also extremely helpful. I am at somewhere just above 400 subscribers in the teens, for 15, 16, somewhere in there. And um, and so I would love to make it to 500 before the 1 year anniversary of my YouTube channel coming up here in February. So, like I said, make sure you like the video, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff. I appreciate everyone watching, and thank you very much, and have a good evening.